Manny Navarro, theathletic.com. We got to know Manny, covered Miami, and had him on a handful of different times, and he joins us. There he is. Are you headed to soccer practice again?
You got to unmute, Manny.
You're on mute.
You hear me now? There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm out of pickleball, man. I got my pickleball league Wednesday nights. It's competitive. We got a team going. You know, it's what we do down here in South Florida.
Well, we appreciate that, and thanks for jumping on as you do that. And, of course, appreciate you being a part of the show. You did a story about the transfer portal, the update, the roster movement, and much more, even about the ACC and other conferences. So if you were to say these 3 to 5 teams have done the best so far in the transfer portal, who would it be, and also a nugget about each one of them?
Yeah, I think LSU's probably been the best of anybody. And again, you know, we don't really know what these guys are going to turn out to be. They're going to new locker rooms. So I put that caveat into all of this stuff because sometimes it's the unexpected guys who step up and play well. But I think LSU's number one. They signed 8 top 100 players out of the transfer portal. Got a lot of repeats at certain positions. Edge rusher. Picked up one of the best ones out of Florida State. Got a cornerback out of Virginia Tech. They got a lot of guys that have started and played a whole lot. Patrick Payton as well was talking about at Florida State, and Mansour Delani from the cornerback from Virginia Tech. I think, you know, a lot of SEC teams did well. I think Auburn did really, really well. I like their quarterback pickup from Oklahoma. I like some of the depth that they added on defense. They picked up playmakers on offense. I mean, Miami did really well out of the ACC. They got, obviously, Carson Beck, who was going to come in and replace Cam Ward at quarterback. I think they were the star of the ACC as far as the transfer portal, 6 top 100 players. Let's see who else. Texas Tech did phenomenal. I think they got 6 top 100 players as well, a bunch of offensive line. Lost me there for a second, apologize. Texas Tech did phenomenal, the best team in the Big 12 in terms of the winner. And then I think in the Big 10, it's probably Oregon who did the best. They got 6 top 100 players as well. Mekhi Hughes, the running back out of Tulane, is a guy that I think is going to be a big-time playmaker for him. You saw the impact that the running back position has in the playoffs, and Ohio State, what they did with the two-headed monster. I think Oregon did a great job getting Mekhi Hughes out of Tulane.
Miami last year could not win games on defense if it came down to it. That was their undoing. Cam Ward, if Travis Hunter doesn't exist, like, he probably gets a lot more love for the Heisman Trophy just because of that fact that he was keeping them in games where they didn't play well because of his ability. Have they shored up that defense enough? And I know they've made staff changes over there as well. Have they shored up that defense enough so that Carson Beck, who athletically is probably a little bit of a step down when it comes to miracle maker like Cam Ward is, to kind of keep it rolling?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have 4 starting offensive linemen back from last year's squad. They went out and they got James Brockermeyer from TCU to play center. So they're going to have a really good offensive line. Cam Ward had a really good offensive line for him last year, which is why part of the reason why they were the number 1 scoring offense. I still think they got to address the receiver position. And they got C.J. Daniels out of LSU. He's going to help them tremendously, but I think they need 1 more receiver, so I expect them to spend some money on one here in the spring portal window. The defense, you mentioned it, was the Achilles heel. The secondary went out and they got 5 guys that were at least part-time starters, 6 starts or more from other programs. 3 of them, I think, were in the top 100 player list on the 247 composite. A lot of young DBs, guys that were all conference, second team, honorable mention type guys. And I think, this is going to be, on paper to me, even without Cam Ward, I think this is going to be a better Miami team because you're going to have some guys that Mario Cristobal's recruited the last 2 or 3 years that are growing up now and stepping into bigger roles. And then you got quarterback solidified with Carson Beck. I think he's going to be a top 5 guy at his position. So I think this could end up being a better Miami team.
Manny, with Cam there, just a brief time, I mean, it certainly felt like he was all in, and certainly they got their bang for their buck, maybe not as a team in terms of accolades, but certainly individually. How will you sort of look back on the Cam Ward era, so to speak, at Miami, and do you feel like they got the bang for their buck they so desired?
Oh, without question. I mean, he put Miami back on the map in terms of being in the hunt to be in a conference championship game, to be a playoff team. They didn't finish the job. They blew a 21-0 lead at Syracuse. They should have won at Georgia Tech, lost that game. So they cost themselves a playoff spot. But Miami doesn't get Carson Beck if Cam Ward doesn't come here last year and do what he does. Mario Cristobal has been dealing with a little bit of a stigma about him being a quarterback killer, right, in terms of just not developing guys at that position. Cam Ward came here. People knew he was going to be a really good player, but I don't think they expected him to be a Heisman finalist. There were a lot of people who had in the preseason Cam Ward, being a Heisman finalist, being a guy who led the #1 offense in the country. So I think Mario Cristobal, because of the success that Cam had this season, was able to recruit the quarterback position better, get a really good quarterback out of Georgia and Luke Nickel, who's going to be the future, and then be able to pull, a starting quarterback in Georgia who led his team to an SEC title. So I think this is, I think it was very important for Cam Ward to come to Miami to help his draft stock, and in the end, very important for Miami to get Cam Ward.
So you mentioned FSU at an honorable mention at 2-10.
Yeah.
What is a realistic expectation with Thomas Castellanos at quarterback, adding some of the guys they did like Deuce Robinson for that offense, a whole new offensive line? What's realistic for them?
Well, I think getting back to 500 is an important start. Really, when you look at Florida State's faults the last couple of years, Mike Norvell, it's missing on the recruiting trail. What's the difference between Miami and Florida State? Well, Mario Cristobal's been recruiting his ass off. Mike Norvell obviously was not, and that's how you slip to 2-10. You don't have much of a young team to turn to when older players leave, and so I think for Florida State, getting back to 6-6, getting back to 7 wins is a victory for Mike Norvell, considering how far they fell back last year. I think they will get there. I think we can't just look at Florida State and say, "Oh, forget it. They're never going to be good again," because they went 2-10 after going 13-1. You can have some wild swings, obviously, but I think that's a realistic goal. 6-7 wins for this Florida State team. They got a tough schedule too. It's not like they're playing a bunch of cupcakes either.
Manny, in terms of Carson Beck, it sure seemed like Miami knew they wanted him, and he wanted them in return, even though there was kind of that report there at the beginning of, hey, there's a couple schools, whatever. That all happened very fast. What do you like about Carson Beck? You kind of mentioned him a couple minutes ago, but what about his game stands out to you, and why is this such a great fit for the Canes, in your opinion?
Tough guy. You battle-tested playing in the SEC. You've played a really tough schedule. You've been in a lot of tough environments. Played a lot of close games. I know that Alabama ended up beating them last year, but that was a heck of a ball game, and that was a guy who was a gunslinger, right? He just came right back, tried to lead his team down the field late after Alabama took the lead, retook the lead. This guy's a winner, and he's been in really tough environments. Those guys are hard to find, especially in the transfer portal. And I know he's coming off the elbow injury, but other quarterbacks have proven in the past that they can come back from that injury and be just fine. Brock Purdy did in the NFL. I'm sure there's other examples of guys that have done it. So I think what Miami has in Carson Beck is a tough SOB who could win you some tough games.
Yeah, there were times which I think the offense, he got, of course, the criticism. They were stuck at times. But he like, I remember the comeback against Alabama. My God, it was unbelievable what they did. So are the same 5 to 7 schools who have the best recruiting classes also the same 5 or 7 schools, Manny, that have the largest budget for transfer portal?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you're still having to spend a lot of money on high school recruits. You're still having to invest there, especially on the offensive and defensive line. Those guys are a lot harder to, in terms of the elite guys, to land out of the transfer portal. Usually when they land at one of these elite programs, they're not going anywhere because they're making good money and they're playing a whole lot. So I think, skill position's a little different. quarterback's a little different, wide receiver, running back a little different. You can go out and find those guys in the portal. But in the end, the teams that are going to be in it and winning national championships, like Ohio State, like Georgia, like Texas, they got to recruit their butts off. They got to invest in high school recruiting, because I still think 70 to 80% of your roster probably has to come from high school recruiting, and maybe the last 25% or so comes off the transfer portal.
Manny, when you look around at a school like Texas Tech, who's 8-4, like, what do you think a jump is for them? Are the moves that they made, Dylan Thieneman, the kid from North Dakota State, like all those guys, are they good enough to get them to 10-2 and playoff contention?
Listen, who are Arizona State playing for the Big 12 championship last year? Nobody. They had them in last place, right? So, to me, the Big 12 conference is very winnable for anybody. You get the right quarterback, you get the right running back, you get whoever it is at those two main positions, and you got to get yourself a defense. I mean, you can be in every single ball game and win the league, and Arizona State proved that. I mean, they ran the ball well all season long behind Cam Scatterbo, and their quarterback played excellent. It was a great decision maker. So why can't Texas Tech win the Big 12, right? I mean, they invested heavily into this NIL class. They spent a lot of money. I thought they did really well grabbing experienced guys. They only lost, I think, one starter, one full-time starter in terms of guys who took off at one of their offensive linemen. So why can't Texas Tech win the Big 12? I think they very much could. It's just a matter of, when you get in those tight ball games in the fourth quarter, do you have the guys that are going to make the plays for you or not? I think the rest of it is, pretty even across that league.
Well, they have the momentum. It's just always been like they can't get over the hump. I mean, in 2008, they had that team that was so good, but then got hammered by Oklahoma after they beat Texas. And it's unbelievable, really, how long since they've won a big, like a conference title outright. It's a huge, huge stretch, but knocking on the door, they're doing what they can. Thanks for your time. Manny, go play. Did you already play, or were you about to play?
No, I'm about to. We started around 6 o'clock tonight.
Okay,
I was getting some dinner, game planning. I cover enough of these athletes. I know the pregame preparation, right? You got to listen to your music. You got to eat some food a couple hours before. So I'm trying to get myself into the mindset to win tonight, man.
Well, good luck and do that. Thank you. Manny Navarro, theathletic.com, with a lot of information from his side of what he does covering the transfer portal. Thank you.